Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be filming my first unhaul of 2021. So 2020 was a really weird reading year for me. I barely read anything to my standards. Normally I read around between 60 and 80 books a year. This year I only read about 22, which was really weird for me. I'm not used to it. I just wasn't in the mood to read pretty much all year. And nothing on my shelves like inspired me. I don't know. Basically in the next couple of weeks I'm going to be completely rearranging my shelves and redoing it and getting a new layout, just because I think this one that I have right now isn't working for me. And to start, I wanted to go through and pick out all the books that I wanted to donate. So all the books on here I'm either going to be selling on like Facebook Marketplace or donating once it becomes available to do so, just because of lockdown and everything like that. But these are books that I've either had on my shelves for a very long time and I just know it's past the point of where I'm going to read it, or are books that I just don't care to have on my shelves anymore. I don't care to reread them or really promote them at all, so I'm just going to be donating them to somebody else who will get more enjoyment out of them. With all that said, let's just get into the unhaul. So the first two books that I have on here are actually adult romances that I bought last year in anticipation of the Christmas season. It was when I was first starting to read adult romance, and these are very Christmassy inspired. However, I still haven't read them and it's been 2 Christmases since I have, and they're just not ones that I don't think I'm going to be picking up anytime soon. The first one is the 25 Days Till Christmas by Poppy Alexander. This one I bought last year again, like I said, and it's just, I think it's a bit, the age range is a bit old for me. I'm looking for more reads with people who are around my age, which is mid-20s, university settings, all that kind of stuff. So I just don't think this is something that I'm going to be reading. It is about a widow, which is also kind of sad, and I don't think I'm going to want to read it around Christmas. So. And this next one I got on bargain at Indigo, and I honestly don't even know what it's about, but it's called The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan, and again, I just don't think I'm going to get around to it. Next up are a few historical fiction adult books that I just don't know if I'm going to get to them anytime soon. Some of them I'm still thinking about, but I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. They're very like World War II centered, World War I, World War II type historical fictions, and it's just not something that I'm in the mood to read right now. I'm much more into ancient historical fiction, so this one may not be a hit for me. This first one is Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosnay. And this one takes place in Paris in 1942 and follows a young girl named Sarah, and then it follows her again 60 years later, so it's one of those like life-spanning type books, and again, it's just not the genre that I think I'm into reading right now, and it's just taking up space on my shelves. This next one, again, I don't really know a lot about. I think it's an award-winning book and or award-nominated book, but it's just not something that I think I'm going to pick up anytime soon, and that is The Girl from Berlin by Ronald H. Balson. This one tells the story of, through a bunch of different characters, it tells the story of Ada, who is the daughter of the first violinist and concertmaster of the prestigious Berlin Philharmonic, and a gifted violinist in her own life, and it tells her story through a modern day filter, through a bunch of different people reading her diaries, I believe. Again, it's just not something that I'm in the mood to read right now. This next one is again another World War II inspired book, and it is The Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. It tells the story of 3 women in 3 different areas of the world during World War II, coming together to kind of tell the stories of those who cannot tell their own themselves. And again, it sounds like a great book, but just not something I'm in the mood to read right now. This next one is a kind of interesting story. It's more of a literary fiction book, and it is called The Summer List by Amy Mason Doan. This tells the story of 2 friends who have just drifted apart over the years after coming of age in California, and 17 years later, I think, after one of them leaves, they are reunited and go through this kind of scavenger hunt thing to find each other again. It sounds interesting, but again, it's just not something I'm interested in reading right now. The next 2 that I'm going to be talking about are some thrillers that I'm going to be parting ways with. The first one is the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Sorry, it's called 2 different things in the States and in the UK, so I get the titles mixed up a lot, but it's by Stuart Turton. I started reading this back in the summer and it just made me very uncomfortable. There are quite a few instances of some pretty bad fat phobia in this, and just the descriptions are really off-putting, and I don't see myself continuing to read it. It may be better for other people, but for me, I'm not interested in reading that kind of thing, so not for me. It tells the story of this socialite who is murdered at a house party at her massive mansion, and the main character wakes up every single day as a different house guest and has to figure out her murder. So an interesting concept, but I'm not vibing with the writing, so I'm just going to part ways with it. Next up, I'm going to be donating the entirety of the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. I just don't really have any plans on continuing the series, and I don't have any plans on rereading the series. I really do not want to continue supporting J.K. Rowling on my shelves. I have continued to keep my Harry Potter books on my shelves just because they were such a huge part of my childhood and I can't part with them, and I do reread them quite often, but I won't, if you've noticed at all, I haven't been supporting it or promoting it on this channel, and I really don't want to keep these, which I have no plans on rereading or continuing the series, on my shelves, so I will donate them to somebody else who will find more enjoyment in them. Next up is my one lonely George R.R. Martin book, and that is The Clash of Kings, which is the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't know where my first one went. It got taken away by somebody else. I lent it to somebody and it just is gone. I barely read the first 100 pages of, I don't even remember if I read the first book of Game of Thrones. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to be reading the second one. I probably won't continue with the series. I really enjoyed the TV show and I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, now we're moving into some fantasy books that I've had for a very long time on my shelves and I know I'm not going to be reading them. The first book is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. Historically, I haven't been a huge Holly Black fan. The reason I bought this was because I wanted to give it another chance after reading the Cruel Prince series and really hating it. However, I really enjoyed the Spiderwick Chronicles by Holly Black when I was a kid, so I think I may have to stick to her middle grade and younger writing because I was just not a fan of her young adult writing. This was written before The Cruel Prince and I still haven't read it. It again is another fairy-esque book and it's just never really caught my eye, so unfortunately I'm going to be donating it. Next up is Crimson Bound by Rosamund Hodge. I've had this on my shelves for God knows how long, multiple years, and I still haven't picked it up. It is a standalone Beauty and the Beast retelling, which normally I would really enjoy, but again, this one just hasn't caught my eye. I just don't know why, but I've never been drawn to picking it up, so I am going to finally part ways with it. The next book is Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This one got a lot of attention a couple years ago on BookTube, and I picked it up then, but again, I just haven't read it. It tells the story of two sisters, Serena and Nomi, who Serena has been groomed her entire life to become a Grace, somebody who stands next to the heir of their kingdom and looks pretty for the crown, basically. But her whole life is turned upside down when her sister Nomi is actually chosen to be the Grace, and Serena is sent to this crazy island where she has to fight to the death with others who were denied the position of the Grace, until her and her sister can come together to save the kingdom from some internal threat, basically. Again, it's been on my shelves for so long and I just haven't gotten around to it, and I don't think I ever will. I've got other books that I really want to read more, so I will be donating this one. Next book is Everless by Sarah Holland. This book I've had on my shelves for not as long as the others, but again, I just kind of forgot it was there because I'm not really interested in reading it anymore. It is a fantasy book in which time is currency, so it tells the story of, what's her name? Jules, who her and her father were servants in the main palace, but were driven away by some unknown incident, and she tries to infiltrate the palace again to take down the kingdom. I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. But the idea of time being a currency was really interesting to me, but other than that, it just seemed kind of, I don't know, I'm just not interested in reading it. This next book is The Lantern's Ember by Colleen Hook. This is a standalone, I believe. dealing with a girl named Ember who is a witch who wanders into another realm hidden deep in her forest that was supposed to be guarded by a man named Jack, who that is his sole purpose in life, is to guard this gate. And now he has to race through the new world before both that world and the world that he lives in come crashing down around them. Again, this one was something that I read, or that I bought after reading the Hazelwood, and I really enjoyed the Hazelwood, but I just never picked this one up afterwards. Normally witches and other fairy tale kind of elements are really interesting to me, but this one just keeps getting passed by every time I look at my bookshelf, so I'm going to be passing it on. Next up are 2 more books by Colleen Hook, and that is the first 2 books in the Tiger Hearse series. I read the Tiger Hearse like 5 years ago, and I enjoyed it. I feel bad because it's one of my favorite series of my cousin Colleen, but I just don't think I'm ever going to continue on with it, so I'm going to donate it to somebody who enjoys it more. Next up is an entire series that I bought years ago that I still haven't read and probably never will. I bought it because I was really interested in this author, and this author is actually right there. It is Cinda Williams-Chima, one of my favorite authors of all time, but I just don't think I'm going to be reading this series. And that is the Air Chronicles, I believe it's called. First one is Warrior Air and continues on. There's about 5 of them. The reason I'm going to be donating these is just because these are, I think, her first series, but they are actually like urban fantasy instead of high fantasy like her other series, and I didn't realize that when I first purchased it, so it's actually not something that I'm interested in reading. I'm not a big urban fantasy fan, so I can't see myself going back and reading an entire series with it, unfortunately. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this unhaul. Next up, I'm going to be planning on redoing my bookshelves, so stay tuned for that and a new reorganization video and hopefully a new tour video. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really helps support my channel, and leave a comment down below on what books you're most excited to get into this new year. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new videos related to books, writing, and journaling every week, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.